When I first heard the name Wellie MK, well, I have to say I laughed, but when I saw the logo and decided to take a closer look at three of their watches, I don't think I'm laughing anymore. At least not at that. Welcome back to Awkward Horology, all of you watch heroes and nerds, and I've been continuing my hunt for some of the best watches available on AliExpress in recent weeks, and I've actually stumbled across this brand. I have three watches to show you today, and I've been sure to get different models at different price points. I have a £39.79 nice wave style forest three-hander. I have an £85.39 retro reissued diver, and just stretching the £100 budget and breaking the bank at £101.19, I have a really interesting Moonphase dial. Okay, so for the low prices, if the specs are on point, do we have a winner or do we have a binner? Well, let's find out. Okay, so let's get started with the three-hander here. So 35.8mm in diameter, 38.6mm with the crown, 43.7mm lug to lug, 9.5mm thickness, and 18mm at the lugs. This watch also has 100 meters of water resistant sapphire crystal with AR coating. It has loomed hands, a signed crown, and a solid bracelet with push pins, and a milled clasp with 6 holes of micro adjust. Finally, this one is powered by the Seiko VH31, a mecha quartz movement, so quartz accuracy, but with a smooth sweep. Next up here, we have a retro 70s diver. It is 41.9mm in diameter, 44mm at the crown, 12.2mm thick, 48mm lug to lug, and 20mm at the lugs. This watch is water resistant to 200 meters, signed crown, 120 click unidirectional bezel. The listing says mineral and sapphire crystal on 2 of the different descriptions, but I've tested this one and it is indeed sapphire crystal, again with AR coating. You have loom on the hands and face of the watch, and finally a solid 3-link bracelet, again with push pins and a milled clasp, and the same 6 holes of micro adjust. Now this watch is powered by the Seiko NH35, and as you can imagine, a legendary movement with great reliability. Finally, we have the Moonphase watch, 41.5mm in diameter, 43.3mm at the crown if you include the crown, 12.8mm in thickness, 48.5mm lug to lug, and 20mm at the lugs. Again, you have sapphire crystal, this time 50 meters of water resistance, a loomed hand indices, and the twin moons are also loomed as well, which is quite a nice touch. The bracelet is a push pin Christopher Ward style consort bracelet. The movement on this one is a Hangzhou 7200. So now it's down to design and my thoughts on it. So I thought I'd flip the script and start with the Moonphase. So in general, I have to say I'm not a massive fan of Moonphase watches. Sorry, WM, Welly Merck. But that being said, I do think this is actually, pretty not bad. In fact, I might actually think it's rather good. Again, with the perspective of £101 price tag. I mean, the closest rival I can really think of in this area is the Christopher Ward, which this one has obviously taken some design cues from, but is not a homage, of course. This one costs, well, that one costs 2,500-ish. And this one at least has a automatic movement, and it's, interesting. And to add to that, it's pretty halfway decent hands and dial, designed for the money, and it does have pretty good specs as well. So I have to say, I can't really see a downside for this watch for £101. Now, I do have this one on the bracelet. You can get it on the leather strap. Maybe if I had my time again, I would ask for a leather strap, but the 3D effect of the dial with the stars, with the twin moons to replacing the 28-day cycle are pretty nice. It will wear larger too, more like the 44mm instead of the 42 that it actually measures in at, and this is because, well, it's all dial here. But again, it's not bad and sits nicely on any wrist, but being honest, this one probably won't be your thing if you aren't a fan of these types of watches, and if you have a wrist that is, let's say, 7 inches or smaller. Okay, so next up for the price tag of £85 is the retro inspired black and orange diver. And you know what? Wow, I really like it. The 70s retro feeling of the watch, the build quality, everything on here, I do feel is pretty good for the price. The dial is simple, has a two-way color scheme, it's printed, nothing is applied. To be honest with you, A, I think that's probably helped lower costs significantly, and B, it actually makes it look and feel more like a retro diver from that period. I like the date at 3, it's clear and legible and really doesn't feel out of place on the dial at all. The bezel is a mineral insert and does mimic the Bakelite, dials of old, or the bezels of old. I like how thin it is as well. I really like how snicky and twistable the bezel is. There's no backplay or bounce either. Honestly, bezels like this have got so much better on AliExpress in recent years. The bracelet itself has loads of articulation. It has a milled clasp, great but not outstanding. It would be if it had a on-the-fly adjustment, but it is a good clasp nonetheless. And you've got the 6 holes of micro adjustment system as well, and you can feel that it's a decently well made bracelet. Finally, the loom is fine. Just fine, not epic, not exceptional, but not disappointing as well. Just fine, which I guess for what you're paying for is probably not a bad thing at all. And finally, for the bargain basement price of just £39, you get this. And you know what? For £39, this is a cracker of a watch. Sapphire crystal, a beautiful dial, and I think you would agree that almost at any price, full price point, or any detail with applied indices, this watch does feel Grand Seiko-esque. Without being a copycat, again, of course, it's doing its own thing. It seems to be a bit of a theme with Welly Merck. You know what? I'm just going to call them WM from now on. 100 meters of water resistance on this watch makes it a perfect all-rounder, especially on a budget, and in my hands I actually prefer this to the similarly spec'd Pagani design I had a few months back. And I guess if I had to nitpick, and I have to stress for £39 I'm going to struggle to really properly nitpick here, the bracelet is just a little bit boring and generic. It's a 3-link oyster style bracelet. It is solid, and obviously that it works with the design, but finally, the only other thing I'm going to probably pick something out of is I'm not a fan of the quartz writing on the dial. But again, it's small and discreet and actually goes with the texture of the dial, so it's not as noticeable, I suppose. But for the money, I guess it is one hell of a watch. So there you have it, watch nerds. Aside from the comical name of Wellie Merck, it's actually halfway decent on AliExpress as a micro brand. I'll leave the links to the stores here in the description below. But what do you think of Wellie Merck? Have you bought any of their watches in the past? What do you think of it? Again, just let me know in the comments below. I have to say, I think this is quite an interesting one. I definitely wouldn't have given them a second look initially. I'm glad that I have, and it's nice to be pleasantly surprised. It's pleasantly surprised in the same way that when you sleep over at your mate's house, he's not drawn a knob on your face in the morning. It's that kind of pleasantly surprised. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, folks, take care, and I'll smell you later.